Hello everyone, welcome back. In this final video, the part 3 of SAP CPI Palette operations, I am going to cover the 4 remaining palette functions, which are routing, security, persistence, and validator. Let's begin. Under routing component, SAP offers different palette functions basically to handle routing of your messages. By using these functions, you can actually determine the target system for a given message. Under routing, we have palette functions like aggregator, gather, join, multicast, router, and splitter. Let's talk about aggregator. As the name suggests, this aggregator step is used to collect different messages and combine into a single message. Basically, this function uses a correlation ID to combine similar messages which belong to a same group. Let's take an example. So you have a sender system and a receiver system. Sender is sending multiple messages to receiver. By using this aggregator, you can actually combine multiple messages based on a region. For example, you can use aggregator function to combine all Europe region functions or Asia specific regions or America region. So you can combine and group them into a single message, and we can send the combined message to the target system. The next palette function is gather. We can use gather as a routing step that merges messages from different routes into a single message. Ideally, we use gather step in combination of split or multicast routing steps. When using a gather step, you can actually define a strategy how to combine the initial messages. Next palette function is join. You can use join function when you want to wait for all the messages to arrive from the source systems. Once all the messages have arrived, you can combine them and merge into a single message and send it to the target system. You can use join in combination with gather to synchronize these messages from different routes before combining them into a single message. Next palette function is multicast. We can use multicast palette operation when you want to send same message to multiple receivers. Under multicast, we have parallel multicast and sequential multicast. You can use parallel multicast when you want to send same messages to multiple receivers at the same time. You can use parallel multicast when the order of the execution is not important, but you have a scenario where the order of the execution is important, then you have to use sequential multicast palette operation. You can use sequential multicast routing step to send a copy of the same message to multiple routes in a specified order. So remember, we use parallel multicast when the order is not important. We use sequential multicast when the sequence of the order is important. Next palette function is router. When you want to implement conditional routing, you can use router palette operation. By using router, you can derive a condition. Based on the output of the condition, you can transfer the message to a specific route. You can use router operation to send a message to a specific receiver or to a service. The next final palette operation under routing is splitter. You can use splitter function to split a source message into multiple messages based on a condition. By using splitter, you can split the message into multiple parts and process them parallelly. Under splitter, we have various functions like EDI splitter, general splitter, IDOC splitter, iterating splitter, PKCS splitter, tar splitter, and zip splitter. As you can see, we can use these various types of splitters to split messages of different types. For example, we can use EDI splitter to split EDI messages. We can use general splitter to split normal general messages which are custom messages. We can use IDOC splitter to split IDOC messages from SAP. We can use iterating splitter to split a message in a loop or iteration. We can use PKCS7 CMS splitter to split PKCS7 and CMS messages. Basically, these splitters would help us to extract a specific message from the PKCS or CMS files. The last two splitters, which are tar splitter, zip splitter, are used to split archive files like tar files and zip file. Let's now talk about the next component, which is essential for security handling of your interfaces. Under security component, we have decryptor, encryptor, signer, and verifier. The first two functions, decryptor and encryptor, basically used for decryption and encryption. So we can specify the algorithm for decryption and encryption in these two palette functions. The next two palette functions, signer and verifier, basically used for certificate handling. When you're exchanging information with other system to handle the certificates, you can use the signer and verifier for handling your security certificates. Let's now talk about the first palette function, decryptor. We can use decryptor to decrypt a message using a private key. When you want to secure a message between participants, you can use decryptor to decrypt a message using a private key. Currently, the decryptor palette operation supports two types of encryptions. One is PGP, the other one is PKCS7. Similarly, we can use encryptor palette operation to encrypt the message from source system to the target system. Right now, in SAP CPI, like decryptor, encryptor also supports two different types of encryption standards. One is PGP encryption, the other one is PKCS7 encryption. The next palette operation is signer. If you are working on a scenario where you need to ensure the authenticity and integrity of the message using digital signature standards such as PGP or PKCS7, then you can use signer palette operation in your integration flow. By using this signer palette operation, you can sign a message using a private key that is deployed on the tenant. Under signer, we have three different types of palette operation. One is PKCS7 signer, simple signer, XML digital signer. By using PKCS7 signer, you can sign a message by using a private key based on PKCS7 standard. In case of simple signer and XML digital signer, the private key is based on XML signature standard. By using these two palette operations, you can sign XML documents or parts of XML documents. By using XML digital signer, you can sign parts of XML document. You can sign a specific element, or you can also sign a specific node by using XML standard signature. The last palette operation under security is verifier. You can use verifier palette operation to verify a signature of a message by using a public key that is deployed on the tenant. By using verifier, you can check authenticity and integrity of the message using digital signature standards such as PGP or PKCS7. Under verifier, we have two different types of palette operations. One is PKCS7 signature verifier, the other one is XML signature verifier. The PKCS7 signature verifier is used to verify the digital signature of the data that has been signed using PKCS7 standard. Similarly, the XML signature verifier is used to verify the digital signatures of XML messages that have been signed using XML signature standards. Next palette component is persistence. Under persistence, we have data store operations, persist, and write variables. You can use SAP CPI data store to store and retrieve data in SAP Cloud Platform integration for data services. By using persist palette operations, you can share data across different integration flows and store messages. We can use this for various purposes such as moving data between on-premise systems and the cloud using ETL tasks. You can also use SAP CPI data store for reusing message payloads of one interface in the same or another interface. Lastly, you can also use SAP CPI data store for creating a REST service that provides functionalities to store and pick up JSON messages in SAP CPI Cloud Platform. Inside data store operations, we have operations such as delete, get, select, and write. You can perform delete, get, select, and write operations on SAP CPI data store by using these palette operations. You can use persist palette operation when you want to persist some data to data store at a process step. You can use write variables palette operations to write variables to data store and share across different integration flows. Please note that you can use all the persistent operations on the data store which belong to the same tenant. The last component is validator. Inside validator, we have EDI validator and XML validator. You can use these validator functions to validate your XML messages or EDI messages inside your integration flows. By using these validator functions, you can actually validate structure, syntax, and compliance of EDI messages and XML messages. Like we had in SAP PO XML validation, in SAP CPI, you can use XML validator to validate the XML documents against XML schema or DTD schema. In this final video of SAP CPI Palette operations, we covered routing, security, persistence, and validation. By using these palette functions, you can build simple to complex integration flows to meet your integration requirements.